So dollar store prepping. We see these videos and these articles pop up from time to time, but is dollar store prepping really a viable option when it comes to prepping supplies? Now, in this video, I'm not going to completely bash dollar store prepping. I think there is a time and place for it, but there's also, some supplies that you just don't want to skimp on. And sometimes the deals, the quote unquote deals at the dollar store aren't exactly deals. So we need to kind of be smart when we're doing this stuff. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the things that you can buy, some of the things you shouldn't buy, and some of the things that, you don't want to be cheap on. Morgan at Rogue Preparedness did a good video about dollar store prepping a little while back that goes through some of the things that you can get from the dollar store. And while these aren't the major, the most important prepping supplies, there's so much that goes into preparedness that there are things you can get from there. She's got notebooks and wire and jute twine and stuff like that. There's a couple on her video I don't agree with, but that's, for each their own, I suppose. But for the most part, she showed that there are things that you can get from the dollar store. Now, I want to go over some of the things that should be avoided from the dollar store, and there's quite a few of them. I mean, the dollar store, they have food, they have medical supplies, they have utensils, they have all sorts of things. But what is a deal? What's not a deal? What should be avoided? All of that stuff. The first one that comes to mind for me, and this is one I disagreed with Morgan on, is the lighters at the dollar store. They're the cheap made lighters. I always have a Bic lighter in my pocket. I don't use it much anymore now that I don't smoke, but I know it's going to work when I pull it out. I know that the fuel's still going to be in there. With these cheap dollar store lighters, you probably used them in the past. Sometimes the flame is super high and it uses up all the fuel. Sometimes it's super low. You can't get anything to light. Sometimes that flint and steel will pop out, making them useless. I mean, and sometimes the fuel in these lighters, it just goes away, and all of a sudden you grab it a couple months later and there's nothing in it. So I would just, instead of trying to save that 50 cents or whatever, get the quality stuff. And that's where we kind of fall into that trap as Americans these days. We have the microwave mentality, the Walmart mentality, where everything's got to be super cheap and super quick, and we want what we want now. That the Amazon mentality, 2-day shipping type stuff. But with some of these prepping supplies, going the cheap route is not always the best route, especially when it comes to the important supplies. Because if you're going to stake your life on something, you don't want to be depending on something that was cheaply made, something that might work and might not work. So just keep that in mind as if you're looking for stuff at the dollar store. Also at the dollar store, you're going to get the lower cost supplies because they go off brand. You've got the name brand stuff that's going to be pretty tough. You can find it every once in a while at the dollar store, but usually it's going to be that off brand stuff. And it's not always bad, or just low quality, but for the most part, the off brand stuff is going to be worse than the name brand stuff. Band-Aids, for example. You can find Curad Band-Aids there every once in a while. But for the most part, it's going to be that off-brand, or shampoos and stuff like that. Shampoos, I don't know that it matters that much. Kitchen utensils, stuff like that. It's going to be that off-brand stuff. But with me, it's the safety factor. You don't know how this stuff was made, what chemicals are in this stuff, the plastics, what kind of hazardous chemicals are in this plastics that were made in China. Just about everything's made in China these days, but what kind of hazardous chemicals are in that we don't even know about. Kitchen utensils, stuff we're putting in our mouth. That stuff, the shampoos and the soaps and all of that we're washing ourselves with. You just don't know about all that stuff. Now, granted, you don't know about the other stuff either, but the odds are that it's going to be higher quality stuff, and they're going to use better ingredients and stuff like that. So the off-brand stuff, the canned foods and stuff there, I just would completely avoid altogether. You can get a can of whatever for $1, but if you wait for sales at Walmart, or sometimes just in general, Walmart or the grocery store, you're going to get it for less than $1 anyway, so you're not saving any money there. And also with the smaller quantity stuff, sometimes this can be a good thing. You've got the travel size different things. So in bug out bags, if you get a whole roll of duct tape, pretty tough to put in your bug out bag, or it takes up a lot of room anyway. You can get the smaller rolls that have the center that's about a 1/2 inch wide, so they're a lot smaller. But at the dollar store, you could get one of these rolls of tape that are about 1/8 of an inch thick So you get it for $1, but it's got, you know, a tenth of what a regular roll of duct tape has. But you can flatten that out, and then you have just a little bit of duct tape that you can put in your bug out bag and use it when you need it, and you don't have to carry that big old roll of duct tape. So the travel size stuff, hand sanitizers and stuff like that, you know, if you want to get those for your bug out bag or whatever, those may be okay, but that's not going to be a savings as far as saving money at the dollar store. That's strictly I need a smaller quantity of something, and you know, this is a good place to get it. You can also get that stuff at Walmart too. They have a travel size stuff section depending on what you need. One good thing about the dollar stores too is they're always usually next to a thrift store, and thrift stores are great for finding preparedness supplies. You know, 9 out of 10 times you may not find anything you want, but you know, that one time you may find a gold mine. You may find something perfect. I've gotten Coleman stoves at the dollar store, lots of books at the dollar store, a lot of different camping supplies and all of that. So you can find that stuff or not the dollar store, the thrift store. You can find that stuff at the thrift store, which are usually right next to the dollar store. Another thing that I'd suggest avoiding at the dollar store is the medical supplies. Now, Morgan said in her video, she was talking about the gauze pads, and you know, gauze is gauze, right? I mean, those are okay. So if you can get those at a better deal than say Amazon or Walmart, then you know, why not? I mean, it's a gauze pad. It's not a huge deal, but you know, you could also use that stuff at the dollar store for your practice supplies. So say it is the low quality stuff and you're not so sure about it, you don't trust it, you could use that stuff to practice wound dressings and stuff like that, rather than using the expensive, like the Kerlix gauze, the expensive stuff that you got. You can get some dollar store stuff and use that. Band-Aids there, you know, sometimes you can get the Curad Band-Aids, which are good Band-Aids. They're going to stick, they're going to adhere. But the problem with that is, like, a lot of the times they have the 10 Band-Aids for $1. Well, at Walmart, you can get a box of 100 for $5. So you're not saving money there. You're getting that smaller amount, and it may seem like in the moment you're saving money, but you're not actually saving money there. Another thing I'd avoid is medications altogether at the dollar store. You don't know how long they've been on the shelves. You don't know what you know, how they're made and if they're going to actually work or not. Medications are one of those things that in an SHTF type situation, you want to be able to depend on what you have. So that's one of those I wouldn't go cheap on. You know, getting the antibiotic ointment or whatever it is. I just wouldn't go cheap on that. But you know, you can find some stuff at the dollar store that may be good, may be helpful, maybe a little bit of a savings. And sometimes you just never know. You go 1 week, they have this or they have that, and then you go 2 weeks later, they don't have that. They have completely different stock because there's such a quick turnover at dollar stores. You just never know. So another big one is batteries. And I'm going to go through some no-nos here, some complete, absolutely not, don't do it, no-nos. Batteries are one of those. The batteries you get from the dollar store, they're going to be the cheaper batteries. You know, maybe they're good if you're giving somebody a Christmas gift and you just want it to run Christmas Day. You know, maybe they're good for that, lower cost. But in an SHTF type situation, you want to know that the batteries you have are going to last you a little while. In each battery, you only have a certain amount of energy stored in them, so you might as well get the most bang for your buck, even if it costs a little bit more. I think batteries are one of those areas you shouldn't skimp on. I did a video a little while back that you can search through my channel and find it, about different types of batteries. What are the best batteries? How long? Which batteries are going to last the longest? Which batteries are going to discharge? So with these cheap dollar store batteries, I just wouldn't even go for them unless you're putting it in something for somebody else, and you're giving it away. A little remote car or a flashlight you're giving away for Christmas, but I wouldn't depend on them for my own stuff. Another thing at the dollar store I would completely avoid is knives and tools in general. You know, folding knives, they've got those there you can get for $1. Cheesy little knives that aren't going to last for crap, and if you ever have to use them, you're going to be screwed and you're going to regret your purchase. The multi-purpose, the multi-tools, the screwdrivers, all that different stuff, they're so cheaply made, that made in China crap, that you know, if you get a hammer or something, you're going to hammer a few nails in and all of a sudden it's going to bust off. Or the screwdriver, you're going to have to use the screwdriver a little bit and all of a sudden the handle is going to break off and then you're hosed. Multi-tool, just, you know, multi-tools, they aren't that expensive. So just get one that's $40-50. that is going to last you and it's going to get the job done. Same with folding knives. These Walmart folding knives, these dollar store folding knives, they're just junk basically. And that is something that you may have to depend on in some sort of survival situation. So don't even go there when it comes to skimping on those. It's not worth saving the couple dollars. If it were saving a few $100, maybe I could justify it a little bit more. But when you're talking about a couple dollars here and there, it's just not worth it to skimp on those really important prepping supplies. Just go get the right ones. A lot of the times too, the stuff at the dollar store, I briefly mentioned this in the beginning, but you can find better deals at places like Walmart when they have stuff on sale. Back to school, when it's back to school time, you can get the notebooks. Instead of paying $1 at the dollar store, you can get these notebooks for like 25 cents a piece or whatever. So if you're shopping smart, you can get better deals. I think the jute twine, you can get a roll of jute twine at the dollar store, but you can get a much bigger roll at Walmart for, you'd actually be saving a little bit of money. It's not to say the jute twine at the dollar store is bad. It's just if you're going there to save money, do your research and know that, okay, I'm getting this much for this amount of money, but Walmart or the grocery store or wherever has it for this amount of money. So just look for sales and be smart. My main thing with this whole dollar store prepping is, yes, there are some things you can get from the dollar store that could help your preparedness plans and supplies that you may need that you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on. But there's also a lot of stuff there that I would just avoid it altogether. When it comes to those important supplies, don't skimp at the dollar store, basically. Make sure, I wouldn't even skimp at Walmart with those important supplies. Make sure you're doing your research and you're getting something that is going to last you a while. With the fixed blade knives and the folding knives and all that, it doesn't mean you have to go out and spend $200, $300 on a fixed blade knife. You can get a good quality fixed blade knife that's going to work great for you for $50, $60. Same with a folding knife. You don't have to go out and spend a whole lot of money. But when it's less than $10 or $5 or whatever, probably not something you want to depend on when you're in a bug out situation or an emergency situation. So dollar store prepping, there's some good points to it, but there's a whole lot of bad too. I would just, do your research and make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure that it is actually the deal you think it is, and make sure you're not just buying a piece of junk. If you guys have any comments on this as well, make sure and leave them in the comment section below. But we will talk to everyone later.